in my work, I had noticed that demons or angels, but primarily the demons, you'd see in the demons the most because that's what you're dealing with. They actually have a structured they have inclinations towards very specific things, and it's very structured. And as time went on, I began to realize that they have a natural law, just like we do. And I started parsing it out in my own mind about, well, they've got the first category of natural inclination because they want to conserve their being as it is, and they don't want to hurt, they don't want to suffer, which is part of that. And then they're intellectual, but their minds are structured a very specific way. And I began to realize that they have a natural law too. The only thing that I didn't quite figure out was the second category of natural inclination. And but I started to kind of sort it out. As I started reading St. Thomas's discussion of the angels in the sentences, the commentary on the sentences, it's in there that he starts going into that the demons have the first category of natural inclination, the natural law. And I began to realize even that he was basically writing that they have a natural law, just like we do. It's slightly modified but for us, the second category of natural inclination of our natural law is those things which we have in common with other animals. And that primarily has to do with reproduction, raising of children, and eating and things of that sort. Whereas with the angels, it's their assigned task is their second category of natural inclination. But the thing I was noticing is before I actually researched it was because they have these natural inclinations, their nature doesn't change, which is what the theologians had always said. And so as a result of that, they still want to do those things that pertain to their natural inclination. So, for example, in one demon that I had, he was created to serve Our Lady, and so he still had that desire to serve Our Lady, while at the same time having an absolute hatred for her and not wanting anything to do with her. So it was this conflict, and he could never serve her. He couldn't do anything. He still wanted to love her because that's what he was designed for, but he was blocked because he can't do that, and so he's in this pain. So you begin to find things like that. So that was one of them, the natural law. And then also St. Thomas's discussion in it helped me to piece a lot together, which I actually use in session now. It had to, that even though each angel, because he rejected his assigned task, which is kind of interesting because who he is his assigned task. So when he rejects his assigned task, it's an actual act, a perfect act of self-hatred and loathing. They reject themselves. That's because they don't want this thing. So they have this hatred and self-loathing. But but what I found interesting in St. Thomas in relationship to this, to the assigned task, is that he talks about how when the angels were created, they all had this understanding of who God was, what their assigned task was, who they were, what the reward would be if they were faithful, what the punishment would be if it wasn't. But in the context of that, they're instantaneously creating this act of knowing all those things instantly. But he said, in the context of that, they see this thing that they want or could have. They don't want it yet because they haven't chosen it yet. So because their will is indeterminate at this stage. So what they have, because it's free. So when they look at this, there's some perfection that they want, he said. And so when they fall, they reject their assigned task, choose this thing. But he says also in the context of that, they know if they choose this thing, they're also in that they see in that thing what Satan's temptation is, what he is going to take a look at, what his possible choice and outcome would be if he rejects his assigned task. And in that, they sign up volitionally to his sin in addition to their own. And as a result, St. Thomas says, that's why they're subordinated to him. He said, and that's also why he said, they all rejected, had their own proper sin, but in that sin was also contained a conspiring in this other sin. And it totally bears out in session. The demons, they all will admit that this thing that Satan wanted, they chose it too.